Hey D.
Hey C. How you doing?
I'm good. We got a cool episode ahead of us talking about some real black ass shit. I'm ready for it.
This is touche. This is D.
This is C.
And this is Black Meets World. So we have King William is back.
King Jarrett Williams. What's happening?
Shit.
I'm all right, D and C. Are you all right?
Gosh.
Nope. I just threw
We good. D trying to over here break my phone, you know.
I really just wanted to turn. I wanted to turn it, and okay.
It actually was hilarious.
My bad.
Whole situation. So Jarrett is in Atlanta. We are in New York. We're over here doing these podcasts via landline. That's not landline. Via the anyway.
Okay, so yeah, we have a call-in guest, Jack.
That's what I was looking for.
From Atlanta, live from Atlanta. Y'all have heard from him before a few times. If you listened to our podcast last week, you heard his feature episode about what he's doing, his documentaries, and all the cool shit that's going on in Atlanta.
The Atlanta Way. Documentary on East Atlanta Meadows. And opportunely, because he is our, TV, movie, and all things cool in the film world expert. He's gonna join us today as we discuss a dissection of the Academy Awards,
right?
A dissection of some cool ass movies dealing with what it is to be black, like Get Out. We could get into Moonlight, or no, not Moonlight, but
well, we can talk about Moonlight. So let's talk about the Academy Awards in general. So I actually sat down and watched it because I haven't seen it yet. Get Out, Hidden Figures, Fences, and I hadn't watched Moonlight at the time of the awards. And I don't think I had. I think I watched it like the next week. So yeah, I mean, we actually, and by we I mean Viola Davis, won a bunch of awards. She's on her way to I don't remember what it's called, but she's got 3 of the 4 of the major awards. The only one she doesn't have is the Tony, if I'm not mistaken.
That means you have to be on Broadway?
No, the Grammy.
Oh, the Grammy. So she has a Tony, and she has an Emmy, and she has an Oscar.
How do you get a Grammy if you don't sing? I mean, she has to be like on a score for a certain song.
You basically have to be Audra McDonald.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's funny because they were talking about people who actually won Grammys and Oscars, like Jamie Foxx.
Wow.
Who else is in that category?
Not many people, I can imagine.
Very few, yeah. But that's amazing. And so I know that some of us in the room have watched the Academy Awards and some of us haven't. Really, it's just me. So I was in Trinidad and Tobago for Carnival, so I was unable to watch the Academy Awards. But I know the one highlight that was all over social media and everything else was the uproar about La La Land getting named. What was it?
They won Best Picture. And then let me just tell you, because it was mad funny to me. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm waiting. Everybody waited till the end. It's like 11:40. I've waited for this moment the entire time. I'm on Twitter. Everybody's obviously, we call our black Twitter space, me and a few other people, the living room. So I'm in the living room. We're all watching together. And they announce La La Land for Best Picture, and I turned my TV off. I was like, okay, I'm good, I'm done. I don't need to watch this week. Yeah, like, I waited for them to say Moonlight, and they didn't.
And it's the last award of the evening. Turn my
TV off, go and brush my teeth. I come back, my phone is blowing up. I have 5 text messages. My friend is calling me. I answer the phone, like, yo, what's up? She's like, turn your TV back on. I'm like, girl, why? I don't care about this damn speech, blah, blah. She's like, Moonlight won. I was like, what? So I turned the TV back on, and I'm at the end of the speech, and my dumbass turned the TV off, so I can't even rewind and see what happened. And it turns out that Moonlight won. So if you watch the video of what happened, the guy who had the card did have a card that was incorrect. It did say La La Land. It was just for the wrong award. It was for the one that Emma Stone had received like a few awards prior.
Who getting fired?
Everybody should have. So the La La Land people actually handled it very well, I thought. Very gracefully. They were like, hey, we actually didn't win. And people were kind of awkwardly laughing. And then they were like, no, we really actually didn't win. Like, we'd be happy to give our awards to our friends over at Moonlight. And so then everybody from Moonlight went up, and everyone was crying. It was this whole thing. And it was wild. Like, it was so wild to watch. And I felt bad because I felt like it took away from Moonlight actually winning. Yeah. But I also just felt like this is a big deal. Like, you can't just mess this up. You know what I mean? Like, everybody, the Steve Harvey memes were flowing, you know, like, just mispronouncing important things that are on TV.
I got really confused. So I saw the clip of the announcement and the woman reading the card, and then like the speaker giving like all the La La Land nominated for, you know, they would give all the facts and things like that. And then the cast walks up, and I forgot what the name of this guy is, but he basically is like a director on La La Land, and he was like, oh wait, no, Moonlight won. Yeah. Everyone is looking, even everyone on stage was like looking at him like, oh, why are you fucking around with us right now? Like, that's a weird joke. He's like, no, seriously, like, Moonlight won, you guys won. And he points like, you know, the card. So I'm like, who can't read? But who can't read right now? So I'm just really confused. And granted, I can make so many jokes that deal with like,
don't do it.
You know, that deal with like, you know, hidden figures, hidden fences.
Somebody else said it. Really? At the Oscars, there was a white man who said,
oh, that's right, I saw that.
And I was just like, but it's not funny. Like, y'all really can't just pay attention. Is it that?
So,
whatever.
So, white people in.
White people, white people in. Shout out to our friend Cody for giving us that phrase.
Hilarious. But, Jarrett, your thoughts?
Yeah, that was probably like the most memorable ending in the history of the Oscars. Like, I don't know if anything is going to be more memorable, but easily top two.
It was like when Janet's nip fell out at the Super Bowl.
Nah,
I'm saying like the way that's going to be remembered is like, this happened live.
Nah,
and it was
you know
terrible.
why? Because Janet was crucified by white people and white families that had DVRs.
Okay, well.
Meanwhile, La La Land and the white lady who messed that shit up not by name in Moonlight, they are not thinking about that again. I forgot which institution runs, you know, they basically create the cards that
I don't know.
have the winners on it. They're not going to be asked to come back. Yes, PwC will not be asked to come back or invited back again for 2018.
Also, fun fact, you know who's the only black EGOT winner? Yeah, the only black person who's officially won it without like it being retrospect or like them for the work they did initially to ever win the EGOT. There's only 12 in the history of like acting, and one of them is Whoopi Goldberg.
Wow,
I forgot she won for Color Purple.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and in terms of the 12 EGOT winners, only 3 are minorities. One is Rita Moreno, who's still alive. She's like one of the most pioneering Latina actresses ever.
I just read about her. Margot Jefferson references her in her book Negroland, and she played a role that Dorothy Dandridge refused to play like way, way back in the day. And I just figured out who she was recently. Anyway, that's cool. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. So Rita Moreno, Whoopi Goldberg, and Robert Lopez, he's the guy who did the Book of Mormon, and he did the music for that and Frozen. He's like, those are the only 3 EGOT winners. And
you said EGOT?
Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. Yeah.
Yeah. So only 12 people have ever done it. Ever done it. And so those are the 12.
That's interesting.
So so let's actually just talk about the movies themselves. Did you happen to see Hidden Fences? No. Hidden Figures, Fences, or Moonlight?
Well, Hidden Fences was the greatest movie ever. I want you to know that.
It won all the awards.
All the awards. I saw actually all 3, and I will say this: I think Hidden Figures. I knew it was going to be relatively successful when I saw they moved the date to around the same time Fences was going to come out. Because usually in the film business, or if you follow movies, like, you kind of know what movie's going to come out 2 years from now. Like, we know certain movies that'll be out. Yeah, you know what movie's going to be out in 2020. And so when I saw it initially supposed to come out in January, then they moved it to December, and they moved it to Christmas. And I was like, wow. I remember looking at it, okay, that's really close to Fences. They must feel real confident about this. And the other thing you don't know is that in order to qualify for the Oscars, your film has to play in New York and LA at least 1 week before the end of the year. And so Hidden Figures officially came out on the 24th. So it can qualify for Oscar. And that's how they moved up the date that quick. And this was like October-ish. And I was like, oh, okay, they really think they got something here with this. And then Moonlight I had heard about. I saw and it was like a slow burn for people. And people knew that it was coming out. People knew that there was this movie coming out that was going to be really about coming out and really, not even coming out, but really just about another LGBT movie that might actually have some mainstream success. And so people were kind of aware of that within the industry, but it wasn't like anyone's radar, like, okay, let's go see Moonlight. It took time, and like Moonlight really didn't make any money. It still hasn't made any money for real. But in watching all three of those, I think that last year was probably the best year for Black film in terms of just sheer number of releases. But in terms of quality, I think for me, Moonlight is the better of all three of those. And it's really the better for all three because it's the most structurally sound out of all the movies. Nothing against Hidden Figures or Fences. I think they're really great, and they're set up pretty well. But there's a lot of things film-wise, looking at Moonlight, I'm like, okay, they really hit the mark, and they did it spectacularly well with like a small budget and like...
Can you elaborate on what you mean by structurally sound?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not a spoiler for you audiences who have not seen Moonlight. So the structure of the movie is how the movie, there's two things if you guys don't know. There's a difference between plot and story. So this is how we're going to start our structure. So this is the story. The story is King William's talking to D&C of Black Meets World. That is the overall story, right? The plot, though, is what's in between to make the story happen.
Okay.
And so when you make a structure sometimes, if we look at Moonlight, Hidden Fences, and I'm sorry. Damn it, I did it too. Moonlight, Hidden Figures, and Fences. They all have relatively simple, straight-ahead stories when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
The thing that made Moonlight much different was the plot itself had a lot more working things to it. But in most of the cases, I've seen movies like Moonlight before that are actually hetero or in things like that, but they just don't hit the marks, right? So structurally, Moonlight is broken down into 3 acts: Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. This is not a spoiler for you guys. So when you see it, expect that. The difference is that there's a couple things structurally that happen, and as a filmmaker that make Moonlight stand out, and they actually make it a lot more watchable to the average filmmaker. Hidden Figures is great, and this is what we would call this could be even a 3 or a 5-act play when you watch Hidden Figures. It's very straightforward. It's very entertaining. It doesn't waste time. Hidden Figures is a good movie for that, I think, in terms of just watching the movie, how to have 3 revolving characters, how to get from point A to point B to point C with all 3 characters, how to tell an overall story, and just be entertaining and uplifting. Hidden Figures is great. I'm not going to talk bad about it. Fences, I thought the main issue I had with Fences was that I love the play. I love August Wilson's plays. I think that when you watch the movie of it, so many stretches of it are just people talking in rooms. And that can work if you watch David Fincher films, which is like The Social Network, where he breaks it up, or he'll focus on one character. He'll cut the camera differently. And, you make a scene feel really different when you don't have a lot of going on. And I think Fences just suffered from that. Moonlight was great because this is not a spoiler, but there's a particular transition. This is why a lot of people like myself kind of watched it, and I don't know if you ladies have seen it yet, but there's a particular transition from one act to another where we first see the main character. He's older now, right?
Yeah.
And so we see the main character. He's riding in the car, and then there's a certain song that plays. The song is called Cell Therapy by Goody Mob, which is like an Atlanta rap group in the mid-'90s. And if you watch the thread, and this is why in one scene how Moonlight changes. So if you watch this one scene, so you're going from one particular Act 2 to Act 3. This is not a spoiler. Act 2 to Act 3. And then
you keep saying that, and it's really okay.
Yeah. I just want people to know that because I think it's worth watching. But when you see that transition, you see the character get in his car, the way the camera's framed, the way the song comes on, you first hear it. It's the Cell Therapy song, right? And the song is Who Keeps Peeking in My Window, right? And you hear that. Yeah. And if you watch the thread of what's happened before, there's a thread that happens. So that's what I mean by structure. So there's one thread, which is if you listen to rap music, you listen to Southern rap music, or you're from like Florida or Atlanta, that's one thread, right? Or if you just said you don't listen to rap at all, you see this, you hear this thumping rap music, you see the character's obviously an adult now. He's more hard. The song is more hard. You kind of don't understand what the lyrics are, but you kind of understand this is a hard song. And then you see there's one particular part where the character now, the door opens, and then the way the camera follows the door opening when another character gets into the car to talk to him, and then what they talk about. And that's one transition. Like in most movies, you just would have had, okay, he's now a grown-up, so let's cut to him being a grown-up. But that little particular scene where you have the music, you have the car, you have the character, and mind you, the character's not really saying much.
No.
And all these different things are happening. So
body language.
If I'm going back, so if I'm going to a film school, I can say this is how you break down a scene, this is how you transition from teenagehood to adulthood, and you don't have a lot of time. But you want to show all these things in one particular scene. You got 1 minute, this is how you do it. Because within that 1 minute, we kind of already ensue, okay, he's older, he's this type of person, we know the company that he deals with, we know what his mental outlook is within one scene where the character says four lines. And that's what I mean by it's a structurally made well movie. I can understand why some people are a little apprehensive about it, because still it is a story about someone coming to their own sexuality, and so that issue is hard for some people to deal with. But just in terms of the overall structure and how they put Moonlight together, there was nothing better than that this year.
So that's interesting, and I'm glad that you brought all of that up, because I would say that Moonlight was definitely the hardest for me to watch because of how they filmed it. But knowing from a filmmaker's point of view, yeah, because it's split up into 3 acts. They do a lot of things without saying them.
That's what I liked about it.
And so it was just like a little bit hard for me to, I guess, not follow, but I didn't catch all the nuances, I guess, the first time I watched it. I love August Wilson, and so I was really excited to see Fences. I thought that... So the thing I find interesting about Fences is that I love Denzel Washington. So you could put him in almost anything and I'd be like, he deserves an Oscar. But I think his role required so much of him because he was in those spaces by himself, having these moments, having to have a whole conversation with himself. It felt very dynamic for his and Viola's role. And so I really liked the acting in Fences. Hidden Figures was my movie because I was an engineer at school. I felt like this was, very much how you feel, obviously, in a quote post-segregated world. Her being in there and having to run 20 minutes to go to the bathroom and come back, and just that struggle of knowing your worth and knowing that you're smart, and having to constantly prove that your voice matters in the room, and just dealing with also being a woman and having men explain things to you all the time, whether they're right or not. So I felt like Hidden Figures was also just very relatable to me personally. But I actually really liked all 3 movies, and I think they all brought different things to the table, so it's hard for me to kind of say which one I thought was better.
I did not see Hidden Fences.
Butcher this name.
Right. I didn't see Fences. I saw Hidden Figures. It was great. It was actually saw it like the first weekend it came out. And it was before I really heard anything from anyone else. And I was just like, I'm so proud of us. I'm so proud to be a young black woman. It gave me a sense of, dang, imagine watching this as a kid. And imagine a lot of my friends watching this as kids. I would have not known that we were capable of this.
Right.
Why the fuck did I not read this in my history class growing up? Why in the hell is this not discussed more during Black History Month?
Right.
Why in the entire goddamn universe is this not in like basic elementary school education? Because it impacts so many things. We learned a man went to the moon. We learned about the Cold War. We learned about the fact that, slavery exists. And there's this place called Africa that only black people from, and they have starving people. But we don't learn that people here in America who are brought here involuntarily, who are able to supersede their situations and be literal computers by hand and compute these numbers. Not even the Chinese, not even the Russians. No, black women got people on the moon.
I loved it also because it was like really a great movie for color commentary. Just all the scenes when all the black women in the room were like, yes, girl. Like every time something good happened, people were like clapping and feeling it. And I love going to movies like that.
Yeah. It made them human, and it made them relatable. Like, oh, this could be us.
And even, and the other cool thing was, they didn't really win any awards, but they had such a presence at the awards show.
They won awards. They won Black awards.
Well, right. Okay. What I mean is, Viola really swept through, Mahershala really swept through for Moonlight, but Hidden Figures, I think, of the award, from an award standpoint, kind of got the least amount of shine, but they brought Katherine Johnson, who's like 90 maybe at this point, onto the stage during the award ceremony, which I thought was really, really, really amazing, and just awesome for people to be able to see her in that space. I think the Oscars in general did a good job of presenting all 3 of the films in a very positive light and in a positive way for people of color.
All right, so they won Screen Actors Guild Award. So SAG Awards is where, because that's the most notable one that I remember seeing, like their picture. And
you talking about Hidden Figures?
Yeah, Hidden
Figures. I meant specifically at the Oscars. I didn't mean that they didn't win awards.
Ah, okay.
No, okay. Yeah, I meant like specifically at the Oscars.
They were like, we can't award every black movie.
No, right. My bad. They definitely won awards, and they were very significant. I just meant for the Oscars specifically.
Do you think that this year was clapback? Not even clapback. Was, let's be careful because of Oscar So White, Jared?
I'm going to do a hot take on this one. I don't think it's a clapback, and hear me why. I think last year's Oscar So White was valid, but I also think that as a whole, one, we didn't release that many movies last year, and then two, the only movie that we really had that was legit contender was Concussion, which didn't get anything.
Not a thing.
And Beast of No Nation, which the industry blackballed, not because the movie was bad necessarily, but because it was coming from Netflix.
And so, like, Birth of a Nation was this year? Birth of a Nation was this year or last year?
Birth of a Nation was last year, but Beast of a Nation the same year with Oscar. So why that
was understood. I just was also
asking. Idris Elba. That's right.
Yeah. That's I was also just asking about Birth of a Nation because I couldn't remember whether that was this cycle or last.
Birth of a Nation was even a contender.
Yeah, 2016.
Yeah. So I would actually agree with you. We didn't. Part of what my issue was with Oscar So White is that it's not like we're given these roles. We're not put in a Casey Affleck role, you know? So to say that Concussion was a contender last year was a stretch for me. I liked the movie. I thought the movie was important. I think that Will Smith did a good job. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I don't think that we came as hard as this year in terms of our production and our part in these types of movies.
I disagree with that.
Yeah. So let's think about 2017. I'm sure all three of us have seen Get Out.
Can Jordan Peele just just have a factory?
So he has 4 other movies.
Educate us.
Yeah, no, he has 4 other. So for those of you who haven't seen it, you need to get your ass up and go see Get Out right now, because there's probably going to be some spoilers.
This is going to be a spoiler episode anyway, because we about to talk about all up through this episode what this movie is about.
Yeah, and also Jordan Peele is part of Key and Peele, the comedy duo, but Jordan produced this movie and also apparently has 4 other movies similar to this, like horror type, comedy type drama films, and I'm here for it. Get Out gave me all the life. I thought this movie was incredible.
Like, I can't agree more. Like, I actually that, and seeing that and Hidden Figures in the movie theater were probably 2 of the best experiences I've had.
I agree. Yeah, hands down. I was glued to the. I was over here giving. I was up there talking through the movie.
That's what I'm saying. The color commentary.
It was so good. Okay, so let's just set the tone. All right. So everybody who's listening, I hope you've watched Get Out, because we about to tear that thing up.
Let's not press pause. Go to the movie theater and come back.
No. Get Out, hands down, was casted well. Mm-hmm. The way, and you know what this is? I'm finally, and I related this also to the show This Is Us. I don't know if anyone watches it, but you can feel the genuine nature of how things are put, because you know that it's a black person writing it. Or rather, let me switch that. It feels genuine because I know a black person is actually writing the script, as opposed to a white person writing a script
for a black person.
Agreed. And watching Get Out and watching this brother be his genuine self, despite the fact that he was dating a white girl, despite the fact that, you know, he is definitely going to go visit her white parents and white family and friends, he still was genuine to be like, you know what, we're in a relationship, of course we got to talk about race because it exists.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I felt like that was accurately portrayed. And also Jordan Peele also is married to a white woman, and he's also of mixed race. But I heard a really good quote recently, and he said, someone asked him like, yo dude, like, why you only ever dated white girls? I see you engaged to a white woman. Why don't you date black women? And he said, because black women don't want to date me.
Which, heavy sigh, Kingley. I don't have.
That's a separate topic.
Yeah,
but
it is a whole other separate topic. But so there's a BuzzFeed article called 22 Secrets Hidden in Get Out You May Have Missed. And I would like to.
That was awesome.
I would, yes, I would
awesome.
very much like to go through this a little bit, because the things that this article outlined are things that I missed completely. So, number 1, Rose isn't actually sticking up for Chris when she argues with the cop about showing ID. She's avoiding a paper trail. I said, damn, she started so early in this movie, because she was so adamant. So, they're in the car, they get pulled over because they hit a deer, and the cop comes and asks Chris, who's black, for his ID, and she's adamant about why he's asking him for his ID. She's like, you're just asking him that because he's black. Basically, like, she called him out, and so the cop kind of let it be. But when you get to the end of the movie and you see how committed she was to the mission of the movie, you realize
this bitch don't want nobody checking.
It's consistent as fuck. And I was like, damn. Okay. Well, we're not going to do all of them, but we are definitely going to do some of these. Number 3, Dean is the chick's father, has a lot to say about how little he cares for deer and bucks. Black buck was a racist slur in post-Reconstruction America for black men who refused to bow to white authority. This I had no idea about. Did y'all know that was a thing?
No.
Black buck,
really?
Yeah, black buck as a racist slur. I don't know. I mean, there's obviously another link that we could go to about the history of that term, but
I've lived that before, and that whole scene when I first saw it just kind of like rubbed me in a way that was like, ugh.
Oh, really?
What do you mean, like the cop situation or the
black buck?
No, the cop is every black man, but the black buck one.
Okay.
I've been around that. Like, just every white guy's like, "Oh my gosh, you're black! Like, you should." It's like they automatically assume that you're super strong, or like every black man is like this hulking kind of figure.
Ain't that crazy?
Right. And so I think this skips down to a later one, but the irony of the movie is that Chris kills the dad with the deer head from the wall, which I thought was amazing irony. Number 4 actually is the one that got me the most. Georgina spills the iced tea because Missy accidentally clinks a spoon against the glass, sending her into a brief hypnosis. So you come to learn that the way that they hypnotize black folks is by using a spoon in a teacup. And during their lunch, the black woman who's serving them, she spills some tea, and it was weird. Like, I remember looking like, why did she just do that? But I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. And then this article was like, oh, she tapped the spoon against the glass, and then she did it again to snap her out of it. And I was like, yo, God, this is crazy. This was crazy to me.
Meanwhile, this is her grandmother. Okay.
Oh, God. Yeah. Her mama-in-law.
All right, so here's number 6. All right, on the tour, Dean, the dad, remarks, "We hired Georgina and Walter to help care for my parents. When they died, I couldn't bear to let them go. There's a pronoun antecedent slip here, and it's on purpose. He couldn't bear to let them, as in his parents, not Georgina and Walter, go."
And then you come to learn that they operated on Georgina and Walter to put his parents' brains into
these young black bodies.
The young black bodies. And I was like, what? I'm telling you, all these things really shook me in a way that I wasn't prepared for. Number 7, Walter, who we know is really Dean's father, is probably running because he never got over his loss to Jesse Owens in the 1936
Oh my gosh!
Berlin Olympics.
That's so good!
You didn't... Oh, girl.
That's so good.
So...
Sorry, I yelled. Say that again.
No, it's fine. So, have you seen on Instagram, like, the Get Out Challenge?
Amazing.
Niggas are really doing it. Niggas are really taking it there. And it's fine, I guess.
Ain't he going around that corner quick? Okay. So number 8, Georgina was probably, this is also like the grandmother, was probably fixing her bangs in the reflection of the window so her lobotomy scars wouldn't be visible. Because obviously these hoes ain't real. Which
is the same reason that they never saw Walter without a hat, which
until the end, right?
Yeah, it wasn't something. And Logan, the other black guy, the dude from Atlanta, he always had a hat on.
Yeah.
Number 10, the sunken place can be seen as a metaphor for the paralysis people of color feel in racial America.
Woo!
Mic drop.
Baby.
Mic drop. Yeah.
Say that again.
The sunken place can be seen as a metaphor for the paralysis people of color feel in racial America. And I was like, Yes.
You see it, you witness it every day, but there's just nothing you can do to change what your circumstances are.
Yeah, and obviously in some cases. And it was very evident throughout the movie between Georgina and Walter, where they and Logan, where they literally could not get out. And that literalness, is that the word? Literalness? Okay. That literalness of the metaphor is what I think just really was impactful about the movie. That the whole concept was just that black people are so oppressed that we cannot get out, and we feel like we're just being controlled constantly by white people.
Yeah.
Number 14 was cool. Chris's cell phone camera gives him his first insight into the mystery of Logan's strange behavior. Cell phone footage has been
go for it.
Instrumental in shedding light on police brutality cases in America in recent years. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to interject on that one for a minute, because maybe y'all picked this up and I didn't. I actually had to go to Twitter, and a friend of mine brought this up to me. But when they flashed a light on the person that made a snap out of, what do you think that was about? Because somebody else had to tell me what that was about.
Oh, that's not it? What you just said?
Well, no. Okay, so I was watching on Twitter, and I saw a friend of mine brought this up too, but he brought this up. He was like, the reason why you don't flash, he brought it to a zoo, right? He was like, the reason why you don't see people flash in the zoo is because it wakes animals up that they realize they're trapped, and so then they become really aggressive. And he was like, every time they kept snapping it, that's why. And I was like, fuck, I never thought about that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah, when he brought it up, I was like, damn, that's pretty good insight, but I never would have pictured that, which is why whatchamacallit from Atlanta snaps on him, and then the father does the same thing.
Right. Yeah, so. I didn't make that metaphor, but I noticed the fact that the camera was relevant, because that's what that's how we've been kind of addressing all of the issues that we've had in terms of like police brutality. The bingo game was super obvious in terms of auctions, but 16 and 17 has to do with Chris.
Ooh, all right, go ahead.
So go ahead and read 16 and 17.
So, yeah, the same literal connotation of, all right, when he's tied up in the chair with those leather straps, same thing with slavery as he's being bonded down. But the good one is remember he's scratching the chair, and the cotton comes out so he can plug his ears. And it's when Chris rips the stuffing out of the leather chair, he's literally being forced to pick cotton.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. Cool in the sense that like Jordan Peele really thought about that. It was very intentional and not something that I would have like picked up on immediately.
Fucking amazing.
Now, number 18. This was some shit. The image of Rose eating Fruit Loops and milk separately can be seen as a metaphor for never mixing non-white and white things. When I tell you, I was so blown. I was like, oh, bitch.
Oh, my God.
What?
Fruit Loops is the most colorful ass cereal, too.
And
you getting every kind of color in there. It ain't Apple Jacks. You're not getting just orange or green. No, Fruit Loops got every goddamn color of the rainbow.
Not to mention the fact that she had an entire wall of like the Negroes that she had seduced to come to her parents. I was so
including women.
Right. Oh, I was sick. So,
I like that one. Mine is a terrible thing to waste.
Yeah, number 20. While Chris is forced to watch the TV, the video keeps repeating, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste," which was the slogan for the United Negro College Fund, which I didn't really pick up on. I was like so shot out that he was like tied in leather, and that he was going crazy in the way that he acted with his one eyeball shedding the tear and the other one not. I was so focused on his face that I was really struggling to even pay attention to the TV screen. And then 21, that was really cool, well, interesting too. The knight's helmet we see in the white car has some overlapping language with the white knights of the Ku Klux Klan. So, if you guys have the time, obviously go check out the movie, check out the full list of things. There's another article I'd also suggest. It's an article it's called Why Get Out, a movie about anti-black racism has an Asian character. And it's essentially talking about how Asians in America are usually like, there's only one in a certain setting, but they benefit as a minority more so than black people. And, the specific scene, the only thing that the Asian guy even says is asking him about his African American experience and if he feels more advantages or disadvantages. And it's a really, really interesting article about their role in anti-black racism, mostly as bystanders, but because they profit more as minorities, but just in general, how they've been able to sort of create their own communities and do things that other, minorities may not have had the luxuries to do. So
this is a weird conversation. I don't know. I disagree. I can agree with to an extent. But also Asia, China, India, Bangladesh, Japan, all of those nations are part of the continent of Asia, right?
Yes.
Different ways they've been oppressed. None of them have been subject to being brought and enslaved in the Americas. Yeah, you have places in the Philippines and other areas like that were conquered by the Spanish, and they have influence. But as an entire race of people, they can come to America and create that community and create those businesses, just like people who have Jewish descent have done similar things. And also, it's a different context of being a minority group. Yes, they are a minority group, but people of Latin American descent or people who are brown or black, they have black roots. Not always, but they have black roots, and they're in the Americas, and they were oppressed in a sense, especially if you're a person of Indio heritage, if you're a native or a person who was indigenous to the Americas. So Asians, I hate to say Asians, it sounds so racist, or I say that in a sense of they are a minority group, and I believe that they do have a lot of issues with representation just in general, especially when it comes to movies or how we view them driving and horrible stereotypes like that. But it is very different how they have been able to be very successful in America because they have literally immigrated into America, as opposed to having a very long history of oppression in this particular country.
Right.
And it's a huge continent. It is the biggest continent, and there's people from all stratifications of whether it's Eastern Asia or Western Asia or Southeast Asia. It's hard for me to kind of follow that argument of the article and saying that they I get it. But I always feel some sort of way when they try to compare, like, well, this group of people has been able to.
It's hard to compare who's more oppressed. Like, it's not a competition about who's more oppressed.
Or really, even in this context, who has been able to be successful in America by building communities. Like, they've done a great job in the nail field. They've done a great job in beauty supply shops. They've done a great job in basically serving needs in communities where there are poor people and they need services. You know what I'm saying?
But to the point of the article, they've been able to do that because they invest in their own communities.
Absolutely. And you're able to invest in your own communities when you're coming from another place and you don't have a history of oppression.
Understood. And then they also don't necessarily... Basically, black people are always trying to help everybody. Like, from the way I see it, black folks will get in on any oppressed movement because it is likely affecting us as well, which is not true for every other minority. That's I think what part of the point is.
Agreed.
So yeah, definitely go see all of these movies.
So I feel a way about Get Out in the way it's been described. Have you noticed? Okay, yes, we can say I'm putting air quotes up, a horror film. Mm-hmm. But the sad reality of it is, how can you consider this horror film when there were worse atrocities literally committed within, 4 generations ago? Your great-great-grandfather could have potentially been a slave master.
Can you imagine, though, that...
And this is by white people standards called a horror flick.
But this is what my thought process on that is. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. There are tons of slaves who didn't know they were slaves, or didn't know that there was something better, or didn't know that they had options, or whatever. Whereas with this movie, it's 2017. Mostly all of us are woke, and we're still in a sunken place. And I think that's the difference, is like we're awake and still oppressed in a lot of ways, whereas it's an evolution of oppression. I can't say that slavery wasn't worse, but what I'm saying is the point of the movie is that it's horrific to think that we are awake and knowledgeable about our circumstances, but still are in a place where we are constantly being oppressed. That's kind of how I read it.
My point was that white people are defining this as a horror, and we are too, defining it as a horror flick, when in fact, this is all factual, and it happened. You know what I'm saying? Let's show a slave movie. It's not considered a horror flick, it's just considered fact.
Well, it's just historical. But this
is literally the same exact thing, but it's a metaphor.
I understand what you're saying. Okay.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, it's crazy that they would seduce these black men to this place and try and buy their bodies. How crazy is that? Wait. that's a horror flick. That happened. Like,
I understand what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That to me, that even having that concept of having that thought.
I get you. What do you think, King Williams?
I think he's tapped into something. I think that, I don't know what the next movies are going to be, but I'm here for it. And if this is where he's going to go, because, you know what it is, Get Out reminds me in some ways, and this seems like a stretch to hear me out, like Utopia was last year. A movie
hell yeah. No, for sure.
About something bigger, but the average person doesn't really want to see it. Like, if we were to say, like, any of those things in Get Out or Utopia, like, the average person would just walk away. So I think that he's on to something, and I hope that this is a thing that continues.
We've actually mentioned Utopia on the show before in that context, but I think the other cool thing that Jordan did was add the TSA friend. He
was so black, baby. I said we all got a friend like that. We
all have a TSA friend, and I honestly think the movie would have been actually horrific had he not come through in almost every scene where you were like really tense.
How they gonna get mad at me because I patted down an old lady? What they gonna do? You know what? The next goddamn 9/11 is gonna be geriatric terrorism.
My favorite was
an old lady
when he was on the phone with her, and she was like, "I think that you're jealous and that you like me," and he was like, "Girl, what? You crazy? I would do it." Like,
she's smart.
Yeah, she's smart. Oh yeah. Oh, she's smart. She turned the table. She turned the table. Like, he was so damn funny in this movie, which I thought was the other side of it. Was there was just enough comic relief that it also gave way to the black comedic side and what we know Jordan to be about. So I really appreciated the movie as a whole because he touched on, King Williams, like you said, a bigger story and a bigger issue, but also hit us very unapologetically blackly.
Yeah, that was the best thing about Get Out to me, was like how black it actually was.
Yes, I'd agree.
You know what I really, really enjoyed? He had his chest up the whole time. He was very confident the whole time, and I feel like it was very intentional for Jordan Peele to have a character play the role of like, nah, yeah, I date a white girl, but I'm going to keep it 100% funky with you. I'm still me. You know what I'm saying? I feel like a lot of times that I see interracial relationships on television, it's not like that. It's not that, brother.
Yeah.
It's not that, brother.
Yes, I definitely do. As somebody who has dated, like when I see that stuff on TV, you're just like, that ain't how that really goes. Like,
right.
Nothing about that is true.
Right. Well, and I think that that's true for a lot of things that we see, though. I mean, we've obviously touched on this before on the podcast. We're in an era where we're seeing a lot of shows made for us by us, but, there are plenty of TV relationships between black people who we've been like, that's not how that shit would go down. You know what I mean? So I think just a general sense of blackness definitely shined through in this movie.
All right, and I just wanted to touch on one last thing, considering interracial relationships and brothers and things like that. Have y'all heard? We put this on our Instagram page actually recently. His name on Instagram is Maserati Rick.
Girl,
his name is Lyndon Antonio Trail. Okay, actually, this is based off of a Get Out meme, and it had this particular athlete. I have to look up his name really quick, who had Make America Great Again with him and his new wife, who was a white woman, and they wore it during their honeymoons. And the question was posed, why do black athletes generally date, women outside their race generally date like white girls? And so this guy, Lyndon Antonio Trail, literally said this: the answer is simple, brother. Most of the sisters were raised in broken homes, and they don't have proper guidance to how they should treat a man. So they mess up in a lot of relationships. The biggest difference is a white woman knows her position and accepts her role as a woman and let her man lead. What black women believe, it's 50-50, and you have to be uneducated to ever think such a thing. Black women are stubborn, closed-minded, and always want to argue, be the boss. Men don't like that shit, especially if you're successful. Young black athletes are looking for a woman to submit, do their part, and they handle business. Men need peace of mind, and you don't get that with black women.
All right, so considering I'm the only black guy, I guess I'm going to take that first. Yeah, I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I just feel like anybody who says that is just like the same type of... I'm trying not to say the N-word, but any person who says that, I already know who you are. I get it, you big, you're an NFL athlete, right? I get it. But like the same dude who says it like that is the same dude who really couldn't get a woman to begin with unless they have this particular position, this particular job. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's some guys I just know that you only got this because you are in this particular position. Like, it has nothing to do with your personality or your ability to actually deal with somebody. So the problem is, though, when people do that, like, they do that as a way to kind of, I guess, I've seen dudes do it as a way to tough love and for you to, like, you know, step your game up kind of thing. But I'm like, you're doing the exact opposite.
It's a turn.
And it's not even a turn. It's like, you look stupid. Like, some days I just want to, like, talk to you, like, yo, you look stupid right now. Like, chill.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Your mama's black. Your sister's black. Your auntie's black. So you really tell me all this
black birth canal.
My favorite thing, I saw like a video, you know, on Instagram, and it was this black girl, and she was just like, you know, black men trying to tell me that I'm this and I'm that and I'm the third, and I don't know what a good man is. And she was like, you know what the problem is? I do know what a good man is, and he looks like my father. And the rest of y'all out here talking trash about me ain't coming up to my standards of what my father was like in a stable home. He was always there. And like, she just goes off about the fact that our problem with men isn't the men that we've dated, it's the fact that nobody measures up to the first man who taught us what it was like to be a man, and it's typically our fathers. And so I found that whole rant to be super ironic, because I was just like, where are you coming from? Like, where's your source at?
You know, it's horrifying. And
it is horrifying.
My thing these days, when I hear ignorance spewed like that, it's like, you need prayer. Because somebody needs to pray for you. That hopefully, it's just like praying for Kanye. Like, I hope there's nothing I can do at this point, because you made up your mind, if you're that ignorant, that you actually are boasting about it at this point. It's one thing to have those closeted thoughts, but for you to spill such type of ignorance and slander out of your mouth and be confident about your opinion, that means that you literally are broadcasting this not only to your close circle, but you telling this to other young athletes. You over here spewing just filth about your own sisters, mothers, aunts.
Right. And this to me isn't just specific to athletes. It's specific to men in general who have issues with women and don't realize, Doug, if you would be the first one to throw hands if somebody said that about your sister or your mother. I don't understand how you don't understand that. And that's why I've never, ever in my life wanted to date an athlete, because I've just felt like there's certain culture that goes with that, and there's a certain privilege that demeans women or just like has some inherent hierarchy about how women are supposed to be. And that's not true for all, you know, athletic relationships and all that stuff, but just the culture around it and what we see, and the fact that we can see things like that just, you know, on social media and out in the open. I'm like, I don't want no parts of this bullshit. I just don't.
No, I agree with you, because it's not even that. I mean, as somebody who's raised by a strong black man, who's only been around other strong black men, and I say strong not in the sense of like we kind of use it as like, you know, a play on words at this point where it doesn't mean anything. But when you see what a man actually does and how he actually reacts to a woman when things don't go well, right? Yeah. So I mean, the one thing I learned from my dad is context. So like, maybe if that woman's yelling, did you do something to get yelled at? And I don't mean like in a henpecked husband kind of way, but like, if you spent all your rent money on whatever, then yeah, you should probably get yelled at. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's context to it. And when I don't think black women when women in general get a lot of credit for being the rational one. You know what I'm saying? We kind of give women a lot of flack about it, but at the end of the day, if you're doing fuckery, like I know I wasn't going to cuss, but I did. But if you're doing that, but I'm serious, like if you're doing that type of thing, then you got to expect that response.
Right.
Or if you out there picking up, and I've seen some dudes like, yeah, I don't date black women because they this, that, and the third. I'm like, there's 50 million of them here in the United States. Like, you mean to tell me all 50 million of them are going to do the exact same thing? Like, right. Nah. So, I mean, you obviously just say, like, yo, I have a preference for this. It's one thing to be like, yo, I just have a preference for this, versus like, nah, this is completely
agreed, not
for me.
And I've always said that. Well, I'm not going to put myself out, but I will say that I've always said that it's better to just say that you prefer something as opposed to being
exclusively only seek for that particular
and biased race. For no reason. Yeah. So we got a little off topic, but I think that was worth a conversation, and probably worth more of a conversation in another episode, to be honest. But
Get Out was lit.
The Oscars were lit.
I still ain't watching.
It's not really.
I watched that one clip of Moonlight winning. thankfully.
I appreciated the Oscars. Viola Davis got up there and made me cry.
Any other highlights other than Viola and
Mahershala gave an amazing couple of speeches. Katherine Johnson got wheeled out on stage. That was dope with Janelle and Octavia and Taraji, and that was really cool to see. And honestly, what's his name? The white dude who hosted it? Is it Jimmy Kimmel?
Jimmy Kimmel. I love Jimmy Kimmel.
I'm not a huge fan of him, but he did give 45 enough shade that I was okay with it. His humor is a lot more like dry and kind of...
It's great.
Awkward. I don't know. Okay.
What did he say about Trump? Just like one example.
He tweeted at him. He did tweet like
on stage?
Yes, during the show.
Everyone
he
hates
tweeted
this man.
and
How
was
is
like,
president?
he was like, we're waiting on you to say something, basically to talk shit about the Oscars. Like it was like he straight up added him like, where you at? And it was so funny because everybody was like all in it,
except Tim Allen. Tim,
right,
the two-man Taylor.
We're not doing it.
I've never. But here's the thing, Tim. I will say this. I don't care. I work in insurance. Tim Allen is he is the definition of white privilege. So you can't go from being a Detroit drug dealer,
moving that cocaine weight.
Yes, like let's keep it 100 with you. Tim Allen used to be a drug dealer, and I'm not against that. Do what you do, right? I mean, if that's what you did, that's what you did. But you then can't, reform your life, do the right thing.
And you didn't serve your full sentence because you snitched.
Listen, but I'm saying you can't go from that, right? Because I do believe people should have rehab and have second chances, which is what you have, especially if you were in the drug trade. You never did your whole thing, but you're a benefactor of white privilege, and then you say you feel like you're in Nazi Germany. Right. And here's the thing, and this is something we do actually bring up. I know we talked about in a couple episodes ago about the documentary I'm working on. And one of the guys I interviewed, he's a scholar at Princeton. He just said basically every black game is a white loss. And in the case of somebody like Tim Allen, when he feels like he can't speak out or he can't talk about conservative things in Hollywood, you probably shouldn't, because let's be real. Most of the time, particularly for white males, particularly white males of his age group, for them, freedom of speech is restricting of what they already know, what prejudice they already have. I don't watch Tim Allen's Last Man Standing. It doesn't do well in most shows, but Tim Allen's the fact that Tim Allen makes $400,000 for Last Man Standing when Black is straight off the boat, and so many other shows make so much more money. So much more money in advertising and viewership. It's just a benefactor of white privilege.
Wow.
Yeah. Tim Allen makes more than Viola Davis does for How to Get Away with Murder and Kerry Washington for Scandal.
And who even watches that show?
No one. But
white males.
Networks, well, they want a white male who kind of tells it like it is. But tells it like it is basically talking down to people in the same kind of conservative ethos that you are deserving of your things. But it's kind of hypocritical for Tim Allen, same way it is for the old dude who was talking trash on Instagram. Like, you guys are both benefactors of something, and then you guys don't see that you're calling the kettle black.
Right. Ooh, well said. And on that note,
mic drop.
This was excellent.
This was great. So, thank you, King Williams, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, ladies.
Always appreciate your input.
Yes. And thanks, C, for being here despite your current struggles.
Yeah, we ain't gonna get into that.
Yeah, we not.
King Williams, tell us where we can find you.
You guys can find me on every social media channel. It's all the same. I am King Williams at every channel. I am King Williams. And if you hit me up, I definitely will respond.
Word. And you can find us on all of our social media, as usual.
At black_meets_world. I don't know what she was doing. Black_meets_world for Instagram. Black Meets World on Twitter and Facebook. And if you want tips on how to heal a spider bite, check us out next episode. All right.
All right, y'all.
Till next time, y'all.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.